Today we're going to look at doing a RAID6 configuration using software on Ubuntu's latest release, which is the 20.04. Now I say latest meaning latest long-term release, not latest release, because there's always going to be a later one at some point. So we have a straightforward start here where we go ahead and we do an install of the mdadm, which is the RAID administration software. Now we could use ZFS, and other videos I do have ZFS done, so bear with me. This is just to look at the other possible configurations. You also be clear here, this is not going to be using the boot drive for this RAID configuration. We're going to use it with the data. So this will be a separate from the boot. There are plenty of boot configurations out there, and so I figured I'd do one about the data. So first off, what we've got is we have a number of drives. So in this case I'm going to configure a RAID6 with 5 drives. So in this case that's straightforward enough. We do a sudo mdadm space -- create, and then the name of the directory we're creating, the RAID level, so in this case we're going to go for RAID6, and last but not least, the number of RAID devices. So in this case, we put in RAID devices equals, in this case, 5, because I'm using 5 drives. Now, in this case, we also need to put in what drives. Now, I've seen lots of people type this out really long, listing each drive individually. I don't know why, because you can just array. So we're going to use drive B to drive F here. I did say B, not D. And then we just execute the command, and that's going to create our RAID array ready for use. So next up, we're going to want to check the status of that. And first of all, I'm going to show you the drives. So we can see here now that our drives B to F are all listed as MD1, and you can see that they're all RAID type 6. So that's a good start. Next we're going to check on the health status of our RAID array. So we're just going to again do a sudo. We're going to do a mdamd - detail, and then the RAID array, so the /dev/md1. And what that's going to do is just show us what the current status is. Now, depending on how many drives, how fast, and etc., you'll see what the sync status is. Now I'm going to go ahead and put in watch so that we can see this configure. Now, this is the part where I usually will fast forward through the video so we don't sit here for 10-15 minutes while it runs. So as we watch the completely speeded up, in reality it took me about 3 minutes, which for a rather slow VM is not too bad. Obviously, depending on the size of your drives, that will vary, and number of drives will also vary. So keep in mind that you should probably wait for this operation to finish before moving on to next steps. Now, in our case, we are now going to move on to the next steps because we've already fast forwarded through. So what I would like to do now is I'm going to format my RAID set. So I'm going to do the makefs.ext4-v and then put our /dev/md1. So what we're going to do is just format it in the extended formats file system version 4, and that's a straightforward command. And even with seeing how long it took to previously get the array up and running, you'll see that this formatting command runs really fast, so that's not a problem at all. Next I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mount the drive. Now this is mostly for usability, that you can mount it somewhere, but it's up to you where you mount it. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new folder in my mnt, so mount, and call it RAID6. I'm then just going to go ahead and mount my RAID set to the mount point. So in this case I'll just put the devmd1 to the mnt RAID6. Straightforward enough. And that basically means I should now be able to list that under the mount point and see that we have data there, or we have a file structure at least. So you can see we have a lost and found folder, so a system bit is now there, which is a good start. Now I'm going to do a touch to create a new file, just to prove a point here that it is the same file system we're talking about throughout the test. And I'm going to do this as sudo because I don't have permission as my current user. So there we can see we have a test file. That's totally fine. Next up, let's go into a bit more detail. Now, one of the things that we've done so far is we configured all of this, but we haven't done any of it in terms of saving config. So if we just go have a look at the exec/mdm/mdm, mdadm. Oh god, this is going to be a mouthful to say. You'll see basically the config file is empty. So what we want to do is take our RAID information, which in this case consists of drives and the RAID identity, and put it into that file. Now we could manually do this, but frankly, why would we do that? So we can go ahead and get the details from the console. We do this using the --details, or detail rather, --scan --verbose, and then we're going to pipe that into the file. So we do another sudo t -a into the exec mdadm/mdamd, you get the idea, config file. That is a mouthful. I love Linux, but really sometimes the wording is terrible. Anyway, there we go. So we should now be able to check the config file and see that those have been added. So let's just prove a point. Let's tail the config, and there we go. So we see our array, our raid6, the number of drives, all the information related, all nicely entered. We didn't need to do anything other than pipe it. Now, obviously this would be the part where if you were just booting up on the rest, you can now get the RAID array back, but you're still going to lose the mount point. So in order to make the mount point permanent, we first need to get the ID for the mount point. So in this case we use the blk ID, and then we put our RAID. So in this case we have the dev-md1, and we have an ID spat back out to us, the UUID. Now we're going to take that UUID, because what we're going to do next is we're going to go into the FS tab. So we do a nano, because we're going to edit it. And we do into the exec/fs tab, and we're going to add a new line. So we're basically going to tell it that on boot I would like you to mount this mount point. So we do the UUID equals paste our ID that we got a moment ago, and then tell it the mount point which we want. So we put the /mtn/raid6 space, and then we're going to put the file system which is mounting. So we tell it the ext4, and then the default settings, so 0 and space 0. And that's all we need to do at that point. Now, there is maybe one last tweak that I would like to make, and this will vary a little bit depending on your needs, but I would still like me as a user to be able to write to that file system. So at the moment, if I just go ahead and try to create a new file, and I do this to the mount point, we can do it also directly to the RAID array, it doesn't really matter, but generally to the mount point in this case, and I try to write a text file, I'm going to get a simple error, which is I don't have access, because the only one that currently has access is root. So obviously I'd like to fix this, so I'm going to do a sudo crown username colon and then space / the mount point, in this case the mnt/raid6, and now I'm going to go ahead and try to write that file again and show that I don't get an error because I now have permissions. Isn't that a glorious thing to have permissions? And then we can just list, and we can see that I have my test file. I can also unlist directly, and we can see the other test files. So we can see now we have all the files that we created earlier. And that's it. That's our raid6 up and running. Our config is saved. Our permissions are set. It's ready for use. Now, hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, you know what to do. And if not, well, you also know what to do.